Hello, everybody. I'm gonna get it. Look, listen. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Courtside with Christy and Gabe right here on the Her Hoop Stats Podcast Network. I am Christy Winter-Scott, joined as always by my guy, Gabe Ibrahim. Gabe, there has been some queens crowned in Vegas. They won it. They did it in 4 games.
Really great last 2 games too. As we talked about, went to game 3. I can retail that more, but I do want to say we're here not only with us, we're here with our stream. Oh man, I can't steal the stream team from the starters. That's what they call their. We'll come up with a name for the courtside crew. Oh yeah, there we go. Yeah, we're here. Here at the Courtside crew. If you hear comment, we'll put you on the screen. We're gonna be going live here for like an hour, I think. Probably. Yeah. Maybe who knows? It's us. We may take you right into the USA Puerto Rico for the World Cup.
I can't wait to watch that. 8:30 p.m. Let's watch it.
I can't wait either.
We'll be off before that.
I think so. But we do have a lot to discuss with the Las Vegas Aces winning their first WNBA championship, as you mentioned, in 4 games in Connecticut. They finish off the season. Christy, what was just your initial reaction to seeing them win?
Oh my goodness. I think it was exhilarating to know the path that they have all been on individually and then also as a team. But I think when you're looking at a team, it's made up of so many different parts, right? Starting at the top with Becky Hammon. It's just amazing to see her as the only coach ever to come right into the WNBA and win a title like that. I just thought it was, beyond impressive, to say the least. So congrats to Becky Hammon, my new best friend. I was like, I had so much fun talking to her at practices and at games. She just exudes this confidence and this energy that you can't help but take something from her every time you have a conversation with her. So I can only imagine what it's like to play for her. So I was so excited for Asia Wilson as well. But wow, Chelsea Gray though, man, come on. She got leaner and meaner. That's what she said when she was snubbed from the All-Star team, started boxing, started taking out some of the, frustration. But wow, just to see her dominate the way that she did and consistently so, it was incredible to watch. And just to know, again, the backstories of each individual on this team. And Kelsey Plum, just start with her as well. What can you say about her journey? And it goes down the line. Dearica Hamby announced that she's having a baby at the parade. And I've had 3 children, and I don't know how far along she is, but God bless her. That's why I have on my Power of Women shirt today, because that's so powerful for her to be able to healthily compete at that level and then say, oh yeah, we won that championship. By the way, I'm expecting my 2nd child. Excuse me? I was like, wait, what? I had to rewind it. Like, hello. The whole thing just encapsulated how fierce and how focused and how much love each individual person in this organization has for the game. And how that just came to fruition with the championship.
Well, I think that story extends also to the franchise and to the ownership group, honestly. Like, it was cool. I don't like giving a lot of credit to the owners. I don't like that they get the championship trophy first and all of that. But I think one thing that was really cool was how pumped Mark Davis was. And I think, when you heard that they were going to take over, that the Davis family was going to take over, you're going to think, oh, they're going to be second fiddle to the Raiders. They're going to be whatever. He thought this was the coolest thing ever. He said, my family has not won a championship in 40 years. And it meant so much to him. And then to think about the journey that this franchise has been on, from San Antonio coming to Vegas and building such a tremendous fan base. You look at that parade that they had, and it was incredibly packed. I just think all those people you mentioned made everything come together for the city of Las Vegas. And I think it means a ton to them. And it was just lovely to witness and be a part of. Now, I do want to go back to Chelsea Gray.
Yes. Okay. I'm with you.
What I don't know how to describe it, because you keep waiting for a player when they're that hot, right? regression to the mean. You keep thinking eventually you're going to miss, right?
Yeah.
And even in the bad game she had, which is game 3 of the finals, she didn't miss. She just didn't take shots. Every time she was taking shots and being aggressive, she was scoring.
Right.
And then it was in, just the way she scored, the shot making at this elite level. I'm not sure we've ever seen anything like this in basketball. I mean, maybe there's a Steph Curry stretch that you could find, and maybe there's a Diana Taurasi stretch. I don't know about in the finals though. I mean, I don't know. You'd be hard pressed to find someone doing what she was doing at the shot diet that she had.
Yeah, I mean, Raquana Williams too had a piece of that pie too. I mean, my goodness, Raquana Williams was.
Where did Raquana Williams go to college?
I believe it was Miami.
I believe it was the U. I believe it was you.
The U. I know you and my husband both say the U because he went to Miami too. So I always say Miami. It's like, no, it's the U. I'm like, okay. And now you go the U. So,
it's the U. It's the U. It's fine. We'll take Miami, but she went to Miami. I'm sorry to interrupt, but yes, Raquana Williams.
Oh no, I mean she went bananas. But that's what I'm saying. It's like you can't help but be your best self when you're around people like Becky Hammond and Chelsea Gray, for that matter. I mean, there were times in the timeout huddles that Chelsea Gray was animated while the coaches were having a coaches discussion on their own. She was in the huddle like, listen, hey, we're going to do this A, B, and C. When you see this coming, you're going to go over here and do this. Boom, boom, boom. I'm like, that's a leader. That's who, if you're in a huddle and timeout before the coaches come in and a player is taking that much ownership of what to do in terms of execution and the little things that happen like that on the floor. I mean, Becky Hammond played the game. She understands it, obviously, clearly. There's just something when you have someone right there on the floor with you saying the same things in essence, right?
Yeah.
But when you have that kind of confidence level that Chelsea Gray displayed in the playoffs in general, but especially in that game 4, I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to think of something to compare it to. And I think when you're talking about hot shooting, I think it's more than that. I mean, I think it's more than what she did offensively.
Absolutely.
Like, I think it was, she had so many jump balls throughout the playoffs. I mean, it was like that grit and that grimy through the mud, dig it out, point God execution that she had. And I think it was more of the consistency of that. And yes, in game 3, she had those 11 points in the first half, but they also changed coverages on her a little bit, put some length on her, put Bonner in that trap and got the ball out of her hand a lot. That took away some of her vision, her playmaking ability in that game. And Connecticut got that one in their first game back at home in the series. But I just think to respond from that, right? Dug herself back, got herself back on track, knowing that they didn't want to go back to Vegas, even though they love their fans and everything. They wanted to finish that thing off in 4. Yeah. And she knew that she was the mainstay. She knew that she was the bottom line on that. And when it came down to it, boil everything out, what's remaining? The point guard. And she just, if she was scoring or setting up a play, she had something to do with every single possession in game 4. And that's why they got it.
And to your point, defensively, she was really, really solid. I mean, she kept helping, right? She kept closing the gate on the post. There would be a baseline drive or a post up, and she'd be the person coming over to help and close at the baseline and getting steals out of that, turning what's supposed to be a negative situation when your point guard's going down to cover a big, most likely.
Yep.
She's turning that situation into a positive. And then on the other end, obviously the decision making with the ball in her hands, not just the scoring, was outstanding. I mean, you could see in the post game, Nikias Duncan, he had asked her about the spacing before in a different game. Right. And she was like, I'm not going to tell you because it's secret.
It's game 2, I think.
Game 2. Yeah. And then he comes back after game 4, asking about the spacing, and she broke it down. And it was so funny because she got so into every little detail that Asia Wilson just looks over to her and goes, "You're talking really fast," but okay. I think Asia wanted to get out of there. Asia was like, "We need to end this media so we can get the party going." Yeah. And I think that's why Chelsea wrapped it up. But it was so interesting just to hear her like immediately just be able to replay certain things that were happening in the game from memory. That's what the great point guards do. And I think certainly for Becky Hammond, one of the best things that happened to her this season, beyond getting this amazing team that has the MVP, Kelsey Plum, who was she was what, 6th Woman of the Year last year, and now she's all WNBA. Jackie Young, who had a tremendous season, DRK, getting all of this talent, but also getting Chelsea Gray, who could lead this team and was the unquestioned leader. It was crazy to hear how often Asia would just say, "We gotta listen to Chelsea. We gotta follow Chelsea. Like whatever Chelsea says, right?" And for that, I just thought that sort of deference from the MVP to your non-all-star player. Again, this is one player. Oh, I have a stat. Sorry, I totally forgot about the stat. I looked it up right before.
Stat, Gabe. What's the stat?
Finals MVPs who did not make the All-Star team that season.
Yeah.
All right, so I don't know if this is.
It can't be a lot.
I don't know because I didn't go through all of them because I was like, hey, this is a good idea to talk about the podcast like 20 minutes ago. So I just had to go with the ones that I figured. So I have a list of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 players.
Wow, I would not have thought it would be that many.
I didn't either, but it might be more too. Remember, this is potentially non-exhaustive. But 2003, Ruth Riley with Detroit.
Yeah.
2004, Betty Lennox with Seattle.
Betty Boop.
And then in 2008, Katie Smith did it with Detroit.
Okay.
This one was interesting. 2016, Candace Parker did not make the All-Star game, unless I'm mistaken. I'll double check.
Let us know. I don't know. Can somebody give us?
I'm googling.
Title.
They won the title.
LA won the title that year, but she was not an All-Star. Intriguing nugget. Gabe, nice one.
And then Chelsea Gray did it, obviously in 2020, and then in 2019, Emma Miesemann did it. But just to get back to the point, like I just couldn't believe how much control Chelsea had over the situation and how much that team trusted her, and that's why they won. I mean, there's no way around that. The reason they won this championship is because they had so much trust in each other. They all knew what they had to do, and they were all on the same page. And I think that was in big part due to Becky Hammond and due to Chelsea Gray and Asia Wilson for saying, hey, those two are the people we got to listen to have that sort of unselfish leadership. Outstanding. And that's why, they won this title.
Yeah. And I think also, I mean, coming into the finals, the question was, but how much will Dearica Hamby play?
Yeah.
And he said, we need her. Right. And Becky Hammond was like, she's our toughest, grittiest, down in the mud kid who's going to be playing hard in the paint for us. And we need that presence on the glass. Kia Stokes did a magnificent job on the glass, by the way, coming into I know it was just under 8 boards a game coming in before that final series. So she was doing that work. She's not going to give you a lot of offense, but what she is going to give you is stops. And sometimes that's more important when you have other people who can supply the buckets. And each of the 4 players that we mentioned before with Jackie Young, Kelsey Plum, Chelsea Gray, and MVP, 2-time MVP, Asia Wilson, they're going to get you some buckets. So it's not like she had pressure on her to score. But what she did, she came in and was a star in her role. So kids, boys, girls, look at what that role was and how important it was, especially in the absence of a ton of minutes that Dearica Hamby did not play, right? I think Kia Stokes is the unsung hero.
For sure.
Raquana Williams, too, off the bench that was very narrow. They did not go deep into that bench all season. But a lot of players, as you've said in the past, have been players off the bench are now starting for the Aces. So it could be skewed a little bit in that regard. But when you're talking about impact, I mean, Chelsea Gray, when you just have that drive, I mean, you're just cut differently when you have that kind of drive and you can sustain it and not just command it of your teammates, but demand it of yourself first. So the integrity behind the way that she played is something that I will never forget.
Yeah, no, it was outstanding. And the to your point, I talked about this after game 3 because I went to Connecticut. I went to Connecticut.
How was that, by the way?
It was a mission to get there. It was an absolute. I missed the train. It ended up costing me more just for the train to Connecticut than it would have to fly to Vegas for games 1 or 2.
What? I don't know if you know this, but Connecticut's not quite like Las Vegas. At least Uncasville is not. It was nice though. We had a lovely time. I got to see some people, got to see some great basketball. After that game though, I said biggest thing that the Aces need to address is getting something out of that 5th spot. Because they had their starting 4 with Gray,
Plum, Young, and Wilson. And then Hamby was kind of in and out because of the injury. She was not 100%. I don't think throughout the playoffs she was not 100%.
No.
I think Kia Stokes was doing a pretty good job, but there was times where, you know, you couldn't have her in the game because she'd be played off the floor or she would just be in foul trouble or for whatever reason. And then there's Raquana Williams, Bebe, who she has not had a good season. She by her standards, she hasn't had a good season. And, you know, as people might remember, she is an absolute bucket, 51 points in the game with the Tulsa Shock.
We love 51 for reference. Sorry, go ahead.
There we go.
I digress.
I didn't even do that on purpose.
I did. Go ahead.
But Bay comes in and has, you know, game of her life. 17 points. Actually, I guess it's not the game of her life because she had 51 in the game. But it was the most important minutes of her life, potentially, depending on how you want to talk about her at Los Angeles is. But 17 points in game 4, 11 in the fourth quarter. She hit dagger after dagger. And it was really interesting to see Becky Hammon respond to Connecticut's huge lineup, which we had talked about a lot. They have played some. It was not as effective. It was super effective in game 3. I was like, this is the breakthrough for the big lineup. And then Becky Hammon responded to it by bringing in her shortest bench player and having the shortest lineup that they've played all season. And Raquana hitting shots was the exact thing that ended up finishing off Connecticut in that game.
Yeah, but that's what I love, you know. And we were talking about that, weren't we? Debating that a little bit.
Yeah,
we were saying that because it's like, okay, they're gonna do this, and okay, now we got to match that with the big lineup. And I'm like, no, because they've got to match up with what you bring to the floor. And Becky Hammon on that same page of thinking, same song, different verse, right? Oh my gosh, and it worked, you know. And you know, you're not going to reinvent the wheel. And we said that. You're not going to go into postseason play or in the final series or whatever and all of a sudden do this complete overhaul of what got you there. But I'm sure in practices, there's a mix of combinations of players that you look at. Hey, if this happens, maybe we can go to this look. Or if this happens, you know, we might be able to go big or small or whatever. And kind of make them match us instead of us, like, you know, being reactive to everything that's happening to us. Like, okay, let's be proactive. You're going to do that, but we're going to counter that and then see how you handle it. And they were not handling that well at all.
Well, I think Connecticut did a pretty good job. It just, when it got to that point, it was about making shots and not making shots. And Raquana was hotter than any of the Connecticut players. And Connecticut, as we've talked about, struggles to get offense when they're in that big lineup. And I think, to your point, Becky's idea of saying, you know what, we're not going to be able to out defense them, but they kind of struggle scoring with their spacing in that lineup. Yeah. So if we go offense, we're probably going to have the advantage here, to your point, which I think is the thinking behind those moves. And just it came down to shot making, and Raquana Williams was on fire. But I think, you know, to be proactive too, what Becky did was she attacked the mismatch that she created.
There it is.
You don't just go big and then not attack, you know, whatever mismatch you have. Yeah. And I'm not saying Kurt Miller didn't do a great job of that because Vegas went to that zone and it worked out. But for Becky, what she did amazing was we're running Raquana off all these screens. Whoever has the biggest player on the floor on her, which would be Bree Jones. Bree was usually on Raquana. Yep. Was running the screen or ghosting it, slipping it, getting to the wings. And Raquana was able to hit from those positions. And I thought to not only create that mismatch, but then to use it. I think that last step is missed a lot. And I think Becky nailed it. And that's why they won the game.
Absolutely. And it nailed it. And it nailed it again. And nailed it again. And nailed it. But
I love that.
But that's what you do, right? Until an adjustment is made again. Yes. Like, okay, here's our counter. And now we're going to flow through that for a little while. Right. And it was what they needed, you know, to get that separation. I mean, it was a 3-point game, right? Yeah. Down the stretch. And then that fourth quarter, it just opened up for Las Vegas. And I just think when you have that, again, that trust, and that's what Becky Hammon preached all postseason, was we have trust in one another. Right. And I think when you have that, it just really bodes for a ton of confidence to be displayed. And I think that's what you saw in Raquana Williams. Like, they needed those. They needed those buckets. They needed that momentum swing to solidify it, right? On the road. I mean, it was just deafening. I mean, the silence was deafening
Yeah.
because she just went on that tear, and those shots. I mean, it wasn't silent in my house because we were going off. It was like, what in the world? Raquana was just like, I mean, locked in. You know, you just saw her so focused, and the fact that she had that smile on her face when I think Connecticut called that timeout after her third bucket in a row. I think she had those 9 points in a row, and you know, that's just that swag, that, you know, that moxie, that fight, that grit.
That's that swag from the U.
Oh,
if you know the U invented swag.
The U again.
The U invented swagger. Obviously, Bay has a lot of it.
She's man. Bay Buckets was getting it.
She
Yeah.
I think she would have had plenty of confidence no matter where she went to college.
True. True.
But no, I think that I really love what Becky said after the game was she would tell her team throughout the year was, if you guys believe in yourselves as much as I believe in you, we will accomplish great things.
Simple.
To give just to give your team that power.
Yeah.
I don't think that's, you know, at the professional level, I feel like that's something that can be like lost a little bit. Just like, you know, there's a difference between doing like rah-rah stuff and then getting people to like believe in what you believe in, right?
Absolutely.
And I think she just did an amazing job of that this year.
Yeah, and that's hard to do. I mean, you can say that if all you want to.
Yeah.
But until the players actually buy in and lock into that and trust it, right? Like they've probably heard it before too.
Yeah.
Right, on other teams, like whether it be Olympics or wherever, college, high school, AAU, all of it, right? I'm sure they've heard it. I've said it before, you know, to kids. And, you know, I think it all comes down to the mentality of the players and what they are willing to let in to their headspace. And I think they just bought all the way into it. And yeah, I mean, it made sense to them.
Yeah.
And they could flip that switch and leave that thing on. And they wanted to win it. You know, they were disappointed last year not being able to bring it home. And all the time. I mean, losing, that creates a winning mentality, unfortunately. But that's just the way it is. I think there's the anticipation of getting back to have another opportunity to win is what Vegas had in their back pocket before the season even started. So for them to manifest and come back through this season the way that they did, hit some pitfalls and, you know, here and there had some struggles, but fought their way through it. I think that's most impressive as well. If you see the storybook of it all from game 1 to the championship game, who that team became, right?
Yeah.
I mean, some questions preseason are always, hey, what's the personality of this team? Hey, we got to be around each other a little bit more. Every season's different. We have new pieces, new coach, you know, everything. So I think now you can ask that question at the end of it all when they have the championship trophy hoisted above their heads, is that, you know, they had to buy in into mentality. And I think that's an example for all of us who are in sports, you know, to see that actually happen. It was pretty impressive.
I thought it was a wonderful job of that. And that's the most, and as we always say, that's the most important thing. You know, you can have the best drawn up plays ever, and you won't win a game if they're not bought in.
You will not.
And shouts to Connecticut, because they were fully bought in too. You know,
they were.
That team did not let go of the rope at any point. You know, I thought in game 3 it could have been easy to just say, hey, you know, season's over, pack it in. They didn't, and even in game 4, they had it in their minds that they were going to win the series right until that final buzzer.
You're right.
So I think they deserve a lot of credit. I think what Kurt Miller built in Connecticut has been an outstanding piece of basketball construction. That's going to change now, unfortunately, because of free agency. I mean, we're likely looking at Bree Jones leaving, and maybe further changes we don't know yet. But it was just a little. It was heartbreaking. It wasn't a little heartbreaking. It was heartbreaking to see that team lose in the way that they did, because they are, I think, of championship level.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, to have Alyssa Thomas have back-to-back triple doubles in the finals for the first time in the history of the league. Come on. You know, she was doing everything that she possibly could. 4 triple doubles for her in total this year. And I mean, she just took it upon herself to just throw caution to the wind and just go for it in every aspect of the game. And you just saw how hard she was plugging away. And so it's heartbreaking in that regard, but it's also difficult because they had Jasmine Thomas out. And I said that before we were talking about it. And I'm like, man, if it comes down to it, and then you look at how, and who knows what would have happened had she played. However, when Vegas went small, that would have been a counter, a possible counter. Who knows? I'm not Kurt Miller. I'm not claiming to be.
It makes it much harder. Makes it much harder to go small.
It makes it much harder to match the speed, right? And defensively to, stick with those matchups that Vegas presented by going small. So, that's always going to, it makes my ribs hurt to think how they're thinking, right? Yeah. To tighten up for them, because it's such a hard journey to get all the way to the finals. And they've been there a couple times now and not come out with the title. And, they've had issues, injury issues, last year with Alyssa Thomas coming back late in the game after that. Late in the season. Yeah. Late in the season, but I meant late in the game. Late in the game of the season.
The big G game. Big
G. And, it just seems like it's always something, and I know as a coach that's frustrating because you can't control that. You can't do anything about that. But also as a coach, there's all the things like, what if we had that? Yeah. What if we had this? And that's hard. And maybe that's just me because I kind of analyze things in a very fine tooth comb way. But I think if you're any kind of competitor, you have to think about that, right?
Yeah, of course. Well, it's just sad because the one time we saw this team fully go was in 2019 finals. And that was, I don't think Bree Jones was playing a major role in that.
No, she was not yet. She played a lot though.
Yeah. She had a breakout in those playoffs, but she was only playing. Oh, she only averaged 4 minutes a game. Okay.
She played a lot more than that in that last game, though.
Yeah. In the last.
Thomas, both, I think Alyssa Thomas and JJ both had foul trouble in that game.
Yeah.
And
but
they were that game.
They were 5 minutes from the finals. I think we look back on that Mystics title and it felt kind of destined, but with 5 minutes left to go in that game, we really didn't think Washington was going to pull it off.
Yeah.
And we thought Connecticut was going to get that championship. And then you look back on it and you say, wow, like that was the last time we saw this team full go. And we didn't even get to see it in its best form with Bree Jones.
Yes.
There's a slight possibility that Bree Jones is back. I don't know. It depends on what her offers are. It depends what happens with the rest of their team. I don't think they could afford another. I'm going to go. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I'm going to say they cannot afford another max player on this roster. I don't even think they can, get someone who's close to the max. So depending on her offers, she's probably gone. And we didn't get to see it, to your point, not having Jasmine Thomas this year. And again, back to your point, Jasmine Thomas changes everything, right? Because then not only is it harder to go small against Las Vegas, Jasmine Thomas is a pretty good. If I had to pick a defender for Chelsea Gray,
that's what I'm saying.
Jasmine Thomas is pretty high up on the list.
That's what I'm saying.
And if I need someone to cover someone off ball, well, I have Wnba on Chelsea Gray. Jasmine Thomas is pretty high up on that list. So it was just, it is frustrating and tough to not have her out there. And then also that big lineup works a lot better because you have someone who can get into the post and shoot from three a little bit more consistently, and not to take anything away from Courtney Williams and Tisha Heidemann. Those two played a great job, but you look at how close they came.
That's what I mean.
And you have to point to that Jasmine Thomas injury, but hopefully, hopefully this team is not, they're not done. I think they're going to be a contender. More or less because of Alyssa Thomas, and if John Cole Jones and Dewana and everyone's back next year, this team's awesome still. Yeah, but it's not the best. It's just like it does kind of, it's brutal to see them not get the full chance that they deserved.
I know, and and that takes nothing away from Vegas. So
no,
at us or whatever saying like, well,
we spent 25 minutes talking about Vegas.
Right. Come on now. I'm just putting that out there as a disclaimer. But when you talk about how this Connecticut team has been constructed, right? And Alyssa Thomas doing everything that she's been able to do. I think when you really look at the lack of consistency and shot making ability, especially with Bonner in this series, I thought that was critical for their success. She got going in game 3 a little bit, game 4 a little bit, but boy, that game 2, she was struggling. What was it? 2 for 18. Yeah. 2 for 18 combined in the first 2 games. And they just really needed more out of her. And I know she was giving it all. It's not that she was like, holding back. It just wasn't falling. And that happens. And that's what happened. And then Heidemann too was struggling.
Yeah. After a huge game 3, she was awesome in game 3.
Just got to make them. And that's the thing. It's like, it comes down to the basics and the fundamentals.
Right.
It comes down to counter of the counter when it comes to your strategy and your schemes on both sides of it. But, those 2, I thought it was really tough, and credit Vegas for that, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, some looks were wide open and they didn't knock them in. But, I think Vegas did a good job scrambling, and they did a good job on the glass, and they were limiting the second chance opportunities. Courtney Williams, one of the best rebounding guards in the league. She got in there a couple times, but that was game 3. She got a ton of boards in that game. But when things like that happened to Vegas, they made changes, or they made adjustments, and they focused on the things that hurt them. In the next game, they took some things away. So, that's what it's all about. But you got to make shots. But I thought Vegas, at the end of the day, took away what Connecticut wanted to do and how they wanted to score and the pace of play that they wanted to play with. And, they got their title because they stayed the course with it and trusted each other. But I think with Connecticut, I don't know what we're going to see in terms of roster for them next year.
I mean, I think I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, I think there could be a lot of different things. I don't know how much, Jonquel's in the contract next year. I don't know if she wants to say, hey, I'm out of here, or, who knows with the prioritization rule, what changes. We're not going to take we'll take the prioritization rule. We're going to kick the can down the road a little bit and deal with that probably in the mock-off season. Yeah. But, it's just, they couldn't get done. And I think this team still lacks, even with Jasmine Thomas, they still lack someone that can create their own shot from the perimeter. And I think Wnba Bonner, she can do that in bits and pieces, but she's not the number one option there. I think Jonquel Jones hasn't been able to kind of develop that ability to drive from the perimeter as fluidly as someone like A'ja Wilson has done, right? Now that Asia's taking threes, it really is a much bigger threat. And you didn't see Jonquel kind of take over as much as we'd like her to. And I think this is something easy for us to say, and something that we say often about a lot of players. But 8 shots in game 4. And to me, if you are the best player on this team, there has to be a different way to get you shots. And I don't know, obviously Vegas did everything to stop her, but I would still want you to just say, hey, I'm going to go do it. A'ja did it too. And it did cost the Aces some games, both in the regular season and the playoffs. But at points, A'ja was just like, yeah, I don't care. You can put whoever. You can put 8 people on me. I'm going to score right now. And I didn't see that as much from JJ.
Interesting. I agree with that because, for as much of a focal point as she was for the Aces defensively, like we got to know where JJ is. And they did make her take tough shots. I mean, that step back 3, that fader from 3, that's a tough shot, but it's contested and it went in. But she's got, she was MVP last year for a reason, right? And I think A'ja Wilson said it as well. Like, we know who she is and what she is able to do, but it's our job to disrupt that. It's our job to make it difficult for her to do the things that she likes to do. And I think they did a good job of putting pressure on the basketball, right? It wasn't just whoever was guarding JJ. Whoever was guarding Jonquel Jones did a good job of denying and staying loose, which they did. But when you're talking about post defense, it's not just the one-on-one matchup down in there, right? It's everybody else playing angles. It's everybody else with the high hand in the passer's face, so they don't get clean looks in there. And the plays can't be made if they can't see them. So that's
everybody talking on defense, please.
Everybody talking, or why are you playing? You're not playing real defense if you're not talking. Doc Rivers, shout out. But listen, I just thought that it was a collective effort against Jonquel Jones. Yes, her direct matchups were tough for her to get the touches that she wanted, but give credit where credit is due on the pressure on the ball.
Yeah.
Not to allow clean looks to come to her and allow for her to get opportunities, which she made some tough shots that are contested shots. She made some tough ones. But if she has limited touches, that'll win you some games. And that won Vegas the championship.
It did. And I think she just has to be a little bit more. And I do want to talk about Bosnia and Herzegovina and her performance last night. I just want to like break it down briefly.
Okay.
But she doesn't, sometimes like she doesn't just impose her will and her space. And I think it affects her when she's trying to make the right play.
Right.
I think she's always looking to make the right play. It's like, I've drawn 2, kick, and that is the right play. But sometimes I need you to make the wrong play and then do it right, because you're that good. You can make the wrong play and it'll still end up okay for us. And this isn't, I'm not trying to put it on Jonquel. I'm just saying, I wish we saw her to get more shots because on the flip side, we saw Asia and Chelsea outside of that one game for Chelsea.
Yeah.
We saw Asia and Chelsea just absolutely say, it's on me. I don't care what's going to happen.
I'm going.
I don't. Maybe we lose, but it's going to be on me whether we win or lose. And I thought that was that was a huge reason why the Aces were able to win. And Jonquel isn't able to do it, and that'll be okay. I think she has I really like the Dolphins' new coach, Miami Dolphins' new coach, Mike McDaniel, I think is his name.
Okay.
But I heard him on a podcast. He was like, adversity is an opportunity, and so this is adversity. It's an opportunity to figure out how to get better. And who knows? Maybe the spacing makes more sense next year in Connecticut. Maybe it works out and they're back in the finals. But heartbreaking loss for them. I'm sure they're not thinking about the future. Let's talk about the Aces though. Really quick. Before we get too far afield, Aces, pretty much everyone on this team is back next year. Only 3 free agents: Kia Stokes, Sydney Colson, and Teresa Plaisance. Sydney and Teresa didn't play that much, but they still had big roles.
They did.
They had big roles on this team that kept everyone loose. And Kia, as we mentioned earlier, had a big role. But still, everyone else back in an Aces uniform next year as of right now.
I love it. I love it for them. You were talking about that free way of playing. And sometimes when you get into the finals, everyone knows, especially when you play teams like every other day, right? Yep. For game 4, right? You understand personnel, you understand the looks that teams want. So sometimes you do have to break a play to make a play. And it's okay to do that. And I think you saw that in the Aces and the way that they played, and they took advantage where they saw opportunity. And it wasn't necessarily drawn up on the board every time. But when it was drawn up on that board, those ATOs, tell you like very, very good. But sometimes when, things are taken away out of those sets, right? Well, they know they're going to pin down, or they know they're going to stagger away. They know they're doing this, that, and the other thing. And what about this now, right? What about now I'm driving? I'm not looking for a shot on this action. And so I think there were some times where there was a lot of read and react from Las Vegas that really served them well in that regard, and the confidence to do so, right? And it worked out for them. So I think you just have to take that deep dive. I think you have to go for it. Teams are going to take away your strengths. So you have to find another way to get it done. And that's the persistence and the resilience of this team. And I think with all of them coming back, it's only going to be better because now you've put another log on that fire, honey. And they won it. Last year they lost it. Now they've won it. So now the expectations are going to be different. They were number 1 seed going into the WNBA playoffs. So they want that. I mean, that's what Kelsey Plum said during the game. We want that. Like when it got really physical. They want the physical play. They want the challenge of doing it again. And now they'll have all the pieces to try.
Yeah, I mean, well, we should mention that Dearica Hamby is pregnant. So depends on how many.
In the months, I think.
Yeah, I know. She may play. I don't know. Women are incredible. I don't know.
They are.
I'm not playing if I gave birth at any point in the year in which the season's taking place. But I'm not women because women are incredible.
Someone who's gone through it 3 times. I told you, I don't know how she played. But
y'all are incredible. Just doing it sounds crazy. Playing basketball after is a different step. But so maybe Dearica, we'll see if she's out for the whole season, for part of the season. Who knows? But they seem to be able to mix and match and create new things. And you got to remember, they also have two pretty good rookies on this team, Kirsten Bell and Asia Shepherd.
Yeah.
Asia Shepherd played real minutes this year. Kirsten Bell didn't get as much opportunity, but with a full off season, because remember, these players don't get an off season. With a full off season and playing in Europe. Well, I don't know if they're playing in Europe, but I'm assuming they're going to play in Europe. They're going to get a lot of work. And Eliana Repair currently playing in the World Cup, right? She is on she's playing right now. Actually, she's probably playing tonight's game. I don't know if she played this morning. But she's gonna have another season of growth in Europe, and she'll come back. So this team has a lot of depth if their rookies can develop, and then they should have some cap space depending on what happens again with De'Erica to even fill in more around this team. So it looks like the Aces are not going anywhere. Benevolent Hoop says Aces will win at least 2 of the next 5 championships.
5. Wow.
At least 2 of the next 5. Count it. What do you think about that?
I'm not. Let's see, the 2 of the next 5. So that could, it doesn't have to be next year, but it could be in the next 5 years. 2 in the next 5. I think that's a possibility, especially if they all stay. If they all stay. I think that's a big part of it. The teams that were in the top 5, 6 in the league this year had continuity with their personnel, right? When you look at that, and although there were coaching changes, the personnel is the same. So chemistry, I think, bodes well when you're talking about a dynasty or repeat wins or, a trifecta of championships, if you will, in the next 5 years, get 2 more. I don't think it's overly ambitious to say that. I think it's quite possible, but I love the fact that they're all coming back. And, I think that just serves them so well. And Natalie Williams, shout out to her. That's I made so many,
and Nikki Fargas
connections, and Nikki, oh my God, Nikki, Jennifer Azzi, all of them. I just think it, when I was out there, I'm telling you, they were doing it the right way because it's player led. Yeah. Right? Mark Davis, he is in full support of it. It's not just some, side hustle that he's doing with the WNBA. He's bought in, he's poured in, he's brought alumni back several times throughout the summer to show them that they are respected for the foundation that they laid for this group. And I just think that they're doing it the right way. When you're talking about how to run a professional women's basketball league, and you have players there, and you have players who played in the WNBA, you have coaches who have played in the WNBA. I just think that there's just something about that magic that they bring to the building, and they just have the support of the city in that regard. And they're on that bus. Did you see it when we were talking about the parade? It's just like the city has bought into the connections that they have. And it was in the building for round 1 against Phoenix. And I was just looking around like, this is what it's supposed to be. And I told Nikki that. I was like, Nikki, this is what it's supposed to be like. This is so cool. Like, this is how it's supposed to be done. Our kids need to see this. The little girls in the building need to see this. And little boys too. Their little sons, they were there. Jennifer Azzi's son, he was there. And, it's just for them to see that they're being supported in that way. And the level of respect is where it is. And that's where it should be always, and grow from there. Exactly. From here and go here. I love it. I love it.
Shouts to Daryl, all the Vegas fans that were in Vegas. If you're in Vegas, let us know. Shouts to Chiquita. I didn't mention this at the top, but Chiquita said Aces in 4 a while ago. Aces in 4 a while ago. And Tiger, I believe, also predicted Aces in 4. I think the Aces are going to be up top. And then you look at the other teams around the Aces, the other contenders. Well, you look at Chicago. Chicago's going to be a year older. Certainly, can contend next year with Candace Parker, Clea Copper. But they are a year older, and we saw them. Maybe age affected them this year, and also prioritization rules are going to come into effect them. We just talked about a lot about Connecticut and how they're going to change. You look at Seattle. Who knows what's going to happen in Seattle? Brianna Stewart may be gone. Obviously, Sue Bird's moving on. Jewel Lloyd's going to be there, but what's going to be around Jewel Lloyd is a mystery. So I don't know what's going to happen in Seattle. And then you look at Washington, and Washington is kind of the team that has the continuity as well going into next year with one of the best players. I think what we were saying before, like as long as the Aces have A'ja Wilson, they will compete for titles.
Yeah.
That's how good she is. She's one of those players. She's the top of the top. Top of the top. Period. All right.
Yeah. And I mean, she's phenomenal. I mean, she's phenomenal. I mean, she has a statue outside of the arena at South Carolina. But the stories, I keep going back to that, and it's outside of the X's and O's. The stories, how she said, my grandmother had to walk the long way and couldn't even walk on this campus. And here I have a statue of myself here. And for her to be saying that through tears, you know, those are the moments that I don't forget, you know, and we're talking about the journey. And yes, they lost last year in the playoffs and the journey of this season with a new coach, but it's like, it goes deeper than that. When you're talking about who these women are and what they stand for and what they stand in, right? And how it's bigger than them. And they get that. They understand that. I just think that's the beauty of basketball, but it's the beauty of our women in this WNBA. I love it. And more stories like that need to continue to be told. And we need to know about who these people are and not just, well, who's A'ja Wilson? Well, 25 points and 12 rebounds. Okay, that's great. And not discounting, but man, these are human beings, man. These are women. And A'ja, you know, her story when she was like 12, 13 and wasn't very good. You know, Don Sally said she was not good, man. But she put the time in. You know, her father, Roscoe, got her in the gym and she put that work and got better. And now look at her. It's just those kinds of things. And I know it sounds like, you know, I don't know, like a small thing. But to me, you know, there are no small things. It's always a big thing. And it's building of a foundation of the love of the game and, you know, the sacrifices of generations before you. And now you're seeing the fruit of all the prayers and the labor of love and all these things. And I don't know. I could go on, but we need to get going. So.
No, I think it going.
But it just reaches a part of me that, you know, I really love to know that about these players. Like they didn't just all of a sudden pop on the scene. Like there was struggle before the success, right? There was a seed planted a long time ago, and now the fruits of what it was planted long ago is showing up, and that's what it takes. It doesn't happen overnight. It's work involved, and these women have put the work in. So.
No, it was inspiring, and to your point,
yes.
Team X and O's matter, fit matters, but you know whatever, getting value on the free agent market, hitting threes, yada yada, that stuff matters. But you know, mentality matters a lot more, and that's really the thing you can control. You can't control all the time the shot goes in, but you can control your mentality, your story, and what you believe you're doing. And I think the Aces absolutely accomplished that. And A'ja, just an outstanding example of everything you want to be. You know, there's like this conversation about who's the face of the league and all this crap. I'm like, I don't care if you want to name one face of the league, I don't have one. I got a lot because there's a lot of players with stories like that. But Asia's at the top. Asia's at the top of the mountain, on top of pretty much every player in this league, especially right now. No one beating her with the title, with the MVP trophy, and everything she's accomplished, and to come all that way and to finish it. You know, I think this year, 2022, was the year of South Carolina bigs finishing the job, right? We had Aaliyah Boston do it in college. We had A'ja Wilson do it in the pros, and they both did it in a similar way with all that, you know, leadership, with not only what they did on the court, but what they did off the court, and how they brought the people along with them. Two very different leaders too. I'm excited to do, because I'm telling you what, I'm hitting this drum all season long. The Aaliyah Boston, A'ja Wilson comparisons are coming. But it was really cool to see both of them do what they did in the same way that they did, and complete that narrative arc. And then starting a new one. You know, we'll see. We'll see what happens going forward. Tiger says it was a SC redemption year. I mean, they made the championship the year before, and like Asia's been one of the best players in the league. But it's fine. Redemption's fine.
Right, but I think I understand what you're saying.
I get it.
But that's what I'm saying. Like you have to most times lose first. Yeah. To know what it takes to win, and I think both of them had to do that. as crushing as it was to lose the year before for both of them. And it's tough because you never go into any games like that thinking that you will lose. Like you're going in with your mind locked in on winning and how to get that done for your team. And when it didn't happen for both of them, I'm sure that was like, it was tight, but it was necessary. And I think Becky Hammond post game after the championship game, she said, it's a process. I don't take back or want to redo anything that was tough for me because that prepared me for what's happening now. Right.
Yeah.
And I think those two young women can say the same thing. Boston and Wilson, they can say the same thing. Like it's not always going to be an easy thing. You're not just going to land on the top of the mountain. You've got to struggle and climb and slide back down sometimes, but still fight to get to the top. And I think that's the lesson that they've learned for themselves, but it's also a lesson that they have proven to the players coming behind them who may have crushing losses like that and how to deal with that. You don't just say, forget it, I'm never going to win one. Well, you won't because you're saying that, right? But if you stay the course and if you fight for what you want, it's not going to be easy. You will slide back down, but will you fight? Will you give your heart the next time, knowing that it could hurt again? Maybe you will lose, right? But it shouldn't be for lack of effort or lack of fight or lack of fierceness or grit. Like those are the things that you need in life. Like forget basketball.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
It's a life lesson.
Well, it's to give everything you have. And Pat Summitt talks about this in Sum It Up book. She was like, what happens when you give everything you have and it's not enough? Well, you get back to work. And that's what happened. And that's the hardest thing. I think when we fail, everyone, period, basketball, whatever, it's really tough to just say, hey, I'm going to go do that again. I'm ready to get hurt again. No doubt about it. Yeah. And to put your head back into the wall. And that's exactly what both those people did. I love the narrative arc. I do want to talk about the World Cup, but first I want to pin you into a corner and ask you.
Get my hair out the way.
You don't have to explain it.
You're pinning me in the corner. What happened? What are we doing?
Well, I've corralled you. You can't escape the question.
Okay.
2023 WNBA champion is.
That is probably the toughest zinger of a question you have sent me since we started this podcast during the pandemic.
This is very early. This is very early. This is way too early to even be talking about.
4 days after the day going.
Let's make one though.
Okay. All right. Way too early prediction for next year's champion. Wow. And not knowing what other teams are going to do, changing around Seattle and them. Wow. Chicago, is Parker coming back, man? I think she will, but maybe she. Yeah. But you got. I'm asking questions down.
No.
Man, I think Vegas has a chance to repeat.
I know. It's so hard.
It's tough. That's a tough call because I don't know, and the only reason I'm saying that is because I know who's coming back for them, and I don't know who's coming back for anybody else. I think New York is going to make a big jump. Dallas made a coaching change.
We forgot to talk about Vicki Johnson. I totally forgot because everything happened this week.
I know.
I totally forgot. I'm sorry, Vicki, and I'm sorry, Dallas.
No.
We'll talk about Sean. We get more time for that.
Yeah, but no, just there's so much change with every team. And I don't know, here in DC, I want them to do well. I want them to get over that. Get one more player. They have like great draft picks.
Let's just do it, Christy. I was going to pick Washington. I'm saying it right now. The Washington Mystics, 2023 WNBA champions.
Talk to me. More info.
So, as you mentioned, I don't know what's happening to everyone else, right? Okay. I don't know. Everyone else other than Vegas, I pretty much don't know what's happening. Okay. Vegas, I'm only saying this because it's hard to repeat and I want to be different. As anyone who has read my mock drafts knows, I like being different just because it makes for a better argument. But the Aces, I don't know. Yeah. It's hard to repeat. Things tend to go wrong in that trying to repeat year. Maybe no Hamby affects them. Maybe, I don't know, maybe other teams get better. I don't know. But the only team that outside of Vegas that I am confident in being, in contention if they are healthy is Washington. Because they have one of the best players in the league in the land Eldon.
Right.
A team built around her that has been around her for a very long time. And they have a lottery pick this year. And if you remember, hey, the lottery pick they picked last year really worked out for them.
Well, very well.
And they have it's quite a bit of cap room to fill in around. I mean, they can't get like a superstar, but they have some money to play around with to fill in around. I think they also have Mike Tebow. So I'm picking them right now, way too early. And if you guys, no one's gonna find this next year, so it's fine.
I'm gonna find it.
I guess we can remember. So I'm going with the Mystics. So if you want to, Benevolent Hoop called it Inferno take. If you want to join this Inferno take, come on in.
I like that.
The water's hot.
Oh, I love it. And I'm not mad at that. It's just there's so many things we don't know yet. And, who they're going to retain, who are they going to get in the draft, and what that looks like chemistry-wise for them. So I don't know. There are some pieces that are going to be moving. And that's hard for me to say, like, definitive.
Oh, come on, Christy. You want to pick the Mystics.
I do, but I don't know. So I don't know what they're going to look like together and who they pick in the draft and the lottery. But I mean, I was excited for them in the postseason this year. And that game 1 against Seattle was like, it really was a tough way to go. And I know they were out after the second game, but that first game, I really thought they had a handle of that down the stretch and just had, a couple of miscues offensively and a couple of missed rebounds that cost them. So can they get back and win it again? I think they can do it. I'm not saying that they cannot do it, but knowing everything right now about Las Vegas, Dearica Hemby notwithstanding, like whether or not she's going to play, but I just think they have the confidence, and they have the continuity, and it's hard to say they won't. It's harder. Let me say, it's harder to say Vegas won't win than it is easier to say Washington will win. Does that make sense? Okay.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's harder to say. It's harder to say they won't because of what they did this year, how they ended the season. And, and they didn't go deep into that bench, but wow, what if they tap into that bench a little bit more and
maybe
just expand things. So, but it's a good question to ask because they're going to have the familiarity.
I'm cool. I think the Aces are probably the right pick, but I'm going Mystics. Also, Mystics have better odds. I don't have the odds in front of me. You'll have to go on.
What are you looking at?
You have to go on to Spread the Floor. I'm sure they'll be talking about it. I saw them. We have a chat, and I saw them posting about it. I was not in the mood to think about next year until just this second. Let's talk about the FIBA World Cup. Got kicked off yesterday. Quickly, just because we have talked a lot about WNBA because that was the big news. But FIBA World Cup has been fun already. I stayed up until 5 a.m. last night.
Wow.
I did. I saw who someone earlier in the comments. I'll go find your comment. Said they've been up too. I think it was Josh. Josh said he's been up since. He says it was 12 a.m. when we started the podcast. He's been watching FIBA all day. He's still locked in. Our guy Josh the King. I was up until 5 a.m. I woke up at 11 a.m. No, actually, I woke up at like 10. So I was able to do.
Too bad.
It wasn't bad. But point being, the games were really fun, especially those first 3. I thought Puerto Rico had an excellent debut, their first win ever in the FIBA World Cup. Team USA obviously looked good, and then Canada got a big win over Serbia in slight upset fashion. So you got to watch Team USA, right?
I did watch Team USA, and I watched them play Belgium, and obviously with a couple of players, Julie Alemán one, and Emma Meesman, another, played in WNBA. But I just think that for Chicago, I just think that USA didn't have all their pieces, and they still look great.
Yeah.
I think Brianna Stewart ended up with 22 points, but there's such great balance on this team. And not just offensively, I think defensively, they were really disruptive and they created some havoc on the defensive end with their length and quickness and pace of play. So I just think they really did a good job of getting that job done. But at the same time, they didn't have Wilson,
No.
Plum, or Gray on the floor with them yet. So that'll be really fun to see when they are inserted into the lineup. Not just, I mean, we know the roster, their own roster, but when they're actually on the court with this team, they're over there for another week and a half, right? Playing 9 games.
Yeah.
And that was the first of 9. So I think it'll be really interesting to see how this materializes. But when you're looking at this USA team, were you surprised that Aaliyah Boston didn't stick on the roster?
Not really. I mean, I think, not that Aaliyah's not ready for it. And I'm saying for Ryan and Alyssa, I wrote the article about them last week.
Yeah.
I don't think it's something because they're ready. It's just, hey, sometimes you got a lot of people playing for the United States of America's women's basketball team. It's the best team in the world for a reason. And I think, hey, maybe there's spots that open up in the future due to whatever reasons, but they had a lot of people who could score. They had a lot of people who could, control the ball, who could control the paint. And I just think Shakira Austin fit better into that sort of secondary role with her running around and, cutting, playing defense. She had the best defensive season of any of the rookies that were there. And Leah Boston's fantastic. She just plays kind of a defensive anchor position. And you'd hope that is taken up by either Brianna Stewart or Asia Wilson. So that's why I think Shakira Austin made the team over them. But yeah, I'm not surprised. It's just, there's a lot of great talent. And as you mentioned, only 9 players last night still looked amazing. Didn't have any of their point guards because their point guards were drunk at the parade in Las Vegas. As soon as Asia tweeted, "Where are the 4 locos?" at 8:00 in the morning her time, I was like, "There's no way they're playing in that first game in Australia."
Yeah, they weren't going to make that one, man. I don't care how much hydration you're not going to get back to where you need to be.
Well, especially because these players aren't like some people who go to the bar every night. They're playing professional basketball. They probably haven't had any alcohol in like at least a month, 2 months. So yeah, I think it hits you a little bit harder. So they were lit.
And what was the beatbox for me? Kelsey Plum, when she came in there with the beatbox, I was done. I was crying. I was like, what is she doing? And then Asia was like, wait a minute, we got to finish with the media and everything. Like, she was there. It was great. But Chelsea Gray, again, she was like the mother hen of that whole situation. And she was like, let me get myself together, and gathered herself and answered the question. So I just thought it was really funny.
She let loose too. She let loose at the parade.
She did, but it was still hilarious to me. But the whole dynamics, like their personalities were like really shining through.
No, it was really wonderful. And the parade was awesome, but so there was no way they were playing. But I did think the way that they handled the point guard position in this game was pretty interesting. I mean, Alyssa Thomas, for the most part, was the point guard. I think Ariel Atkins took up a little bit of those responsibilities early in the game. She was really active early in the game. I think someone said, hey, we got to hit him in the mouth early because we don't have that many players. And she was like, got it. And then she hit him in the mouth immediately, her and Alyssa Thomas. But, AT at the point, it caused some problems. There was some stagnation in the offense, but it went pretty well. And she almost ended up with a triple-double, I believe. Got close to it.
Another one, man. She was close. I'm like, she's about to mess around and get another.
It's easy. It's easy for her,
Oh, it's like what she does, man. It's crazy. She's just so efficient at so many different aspects of the game. She just brings her best self to it, and the game rewards her for it. I mean, that's phenomenal. I mean, she just came off 4-game series too. She and Bree Jones and Go Terps. Since we were talking about I may as well throw that in there.
We can always do it.
Where did they play, Gabe? That's
I believe they played in College Park, Maryland, for the University of Maryland.
Sorry. Okay, I digress. Come on back. But no, I just think she's always been an initiator, right? I mean, when she rebounds, she can take it and go. So it's not like it's out of her wheelhouse, outside of her skill set to be able to, attack like that or set up an offense if they have to, right? If she doesn't get something straight to the rim or commit a couple to the basketball and distribute from that kind of a read, she's going to make a play, right? And it was a little, disjointed, I guess, a couple of times. when they had to settle in the quarter court and get through an offense. But when they were pushing pace and tempo, and Alyssa gets aboard and cooks down the floor like a freight train that she is, the A train was moving, honey, and she was on it. But when you have that versatility, when you have more than just one or two players who can do that for you, I mean, that's the beauty of this team. Yeah. And that's why they're stacked like this.
The beauty of this team is that they are awesome, and they have some of the best players in the country. I mean, in the world.
In the world.
Actually, not some of the best players in the world. Probably the best players in the world outside of one or two exceptions. Yeah, the team's good. The Ariel played well. Alyssa was obviously a story. I mean, Brianna Stewart does her thing. Yeah. Always does her thing. She ended up with like 22. Clea Copper was awesome. Her senior team debut.
Yeah.
That continuing the meteoric rise. Yeah. Meteoric is like a very tall, steep rise. Her rise to the top of women's basketball by making the national team. So they look good. I have another stat that I want to use in an article, but I may not write the article because I was too tired from staying up all night.
Yeah, you stayed up all night. What are you doing? Like,
Gabe, where is it?
Yeah, find it, Gabe. We need that.
All right, so they won by 15 last night. So in their they have not lost a game in this competition or in any world level international competition. The United States has not lost since the semifinals of the 2006 FIBA Women's World Cup.
Wow.
Things are going.
If they're listening, what are they, 20 minutes before tip off? Hey, Sure. But guess what? It's been since 06.
It's been since I was 13 that we have lost a game on the world stage.
Wow. Yeah. That's a great nugget, actually.
So,
but they don't need to know that right now. They can know that like later.
They probably know it. It's been the win streak has been long. So they have won their games by 626 points total, by a margin of that, and so that comes out to about 29 per game, maybe a little bit lower now. So things go well for the USA. We're pretty good.
I love that. I love it. And you're talking about I mean, the game was pretty close though. When we're talking about the USA game.
Belgium's the best. Belgium's like the second or third best team in the world.
They were challenging them, and it got into single digits a couple of times, because they got a couple buckets. I think they cut it to 5. Mieseman got a couple buckets in a row. USA had to call timeout. Cheryl Reeve had to get one. Mike Thibault on the bench too. Carol Lawson as well on the bench for USA. But they had to get a timeout. So I mean, it wasn't like it was easy money win, right? They had to fight for it. And they won by 15 eventually, but they closed that gap a couple of times in the game under 10 points. So, I mean, the game is fun to watch internationally because some of the players who played in the WNBA and all of that. But at the same time, you're talking about all these players going overseas to play, and then they come back, and like the meshing of what that looks like, feels like is kind of intriguing to watch that way as well.
Yeah, no, it's super cool. I love the basketball here. If anything else, is because the players haven't been together that long, so they can't run the plays as fluidly, so I can see what's happening more easily. It's really fun for me. Shouts to Puerto Rico, actually, listen, I want to talk about Puerto Rico because that's a Team USA's opponent in just about 11 minutes. We have to get out of here. We said we were going to be out of here. I do want to talk about Puerto Rico, though, because they whooped up on Bosnia Herzegovina and Jonquel Jones. Jonquel looked absolutely gassed, and that makes a total sense because she just played in the finals. But she was like, she just couldn't, do as much as, she normally does for this team. Yeah. She was still finding players and they were just missing. But Puerto Rico, their shooting was out of this world. Their first half shooting, I believe, what do I have here? They were 81% from within the arc.
Whoa.
Against a team, they were 56% from 3, 73% overall.
Oh boy.
So they were shooting the lights out. Yeah. Puerto Rico was just outstanding in every regard. Aurelia Griantes, Maya Hollingshead just joined the team. This is her first tournament with Puerto Rico, and they were really excited about adding her. And she had a huge game. They have players who have been on this team for a long time as well, who are getting that shine now. They get their first win in I think it's their first win ever in world level competition, either the Olympics or the World Cup. Awesome for them. Super pumped for them. They looked good. They look good. I don't think they're going to be much of a challenge for Team USA because, as we just talked about, there's a lot of talent on that team.
Well, they don't have a lot of size either. That's another.
They did an awesome job on Jonquil.
Yeah.
They did an awesome job on Jonquil, just doubling her and making her life miserable. And, you know, their bigs, Quinones, who played at Dartmouth, actually, I can't pronounce her first name. I think it's Ila, but, you know, I don't know. That's just because I had a cousin who had that name. But Quinones was great. She's actually an environmental engineer from Dartmouth. I think that's like her profession.
Very nice.
So I'm not sure she's a professional basketball player, which is incredible because she was outstanding in this game.
Open it up.
Yeah, she isn't a basketball player, but she also has a job listed on on her. Women are incredible. They've been playing all year round. They come here and they're still playing, shooting the lights. Women are incredible. But I was just super impressed with Puerto Rico. I thought they were awesome. And also everything that's going on in the country right now, hit by another hurricane, again, power grid going down. You know, still dealing with a lot of the problems that they have been dealing with people moving in and really taking up all the resources that should be there for the islands. It makes me upset, but you know, to have this team persevere through that situation was pretty cool to watch, and hopefully you know, things are okay in Puerto Rico for them. But you know, awesome to see. And if you want like more information about what's going on in Puerto Rico, there's actually a Bad Bunny music video that like is 22 minutes long. It explains like a lot of the situation in Puerto Rico at the moment.
Wow. Yeah, I hope they get things going over there. I know the water is receded and everything like that, but it's devastating once again. It's 5 years after it happened before, so I just feel badly for them. Hopefully they'll get back on track.
The Puerto Ricans are a tough group of people, but so hopefully they'll be right back on their feet and cheering this team on, because this team is awesome, and I think they really represent a lot of what a country needs to do to get better. I mean, you know, you look at where Puerto Rico was for a long time, for them to step up into that third North American spot, and start taking advantage of position and being able to win games at this level is really, really impressive. So good for Puerto Rico, and you know, send them love their way. We will see what happens to them tonight. I would imagine that Team USA is going to win.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see who plays for USA. I don't think. Do you think Asia and the Aces players will play? Gray and Plum.
I mean, she's a women's basketball player, and they tend to play through anything.
That's
so.
But you said Jonquil looked gas though, so I was just wondering like what you thought.
I'm sure they'll
play where they do minutes restrictions on them.
Well, I mean, in fairness, Alyssa Thomas didn't look gas, but Alyssa Thomas has never looked gas.
I'm not gauging anything by what Alyssa Thomas can do on the floor. I don't care if she played 100 games; she's going to come back and play the 101st game just as hard as the first one. So I'm not even gauging her. She's different. Like that's a different category.
She's a different level. I think they may play a little bit. Probably not like the full game. But I think it'd be nice to get them out on the floor and get them working with the players they're going to play with, because they haven't been to training camp. Obviously Chelsea Gray's played with a lot of this team. Kelsey Plum hasn't. So it'll be interesting to see how they integrate themselves, but I do think they need to play a little bit tonight. Luckily, in the group stage at this point, there's not as many challenges left for the U.S. Belgium was the best team in this group, the second best team in this group. China looks good. So maybe they have some more tune-ups and they're able to get a little bit of rest in.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting just to see it. But, this USA team with a lot of new faces in the USA pool this season, this USA season, I think it'll be fun to see what they can do together.
I'm excited. And one more thing. Guess what we're doing next week?
What are we doing?
College basketball.
Hey.
Oh, let's do it. Season starts soon. I just realized how close we are to October, which means we're very close to November.
Hurry.
It's starting to get chilly. Then there's some sweaters.
Leaves are falling.
Yeah, it's almost time for college basketball. So Yeah, college basketball prep starts next week. I don't know what we're going to talk about, but we'll talk about something.
Yeah, no, it's media days are coming up at the beginning of October, a couple of weeks of October. So it'll be fun to see what every team looks like, right? With the transfer portal, the NILs, and all of the things that go into recruiting these days. It's really a different world, right? When it comes to college basketball in a lot of ways, but conference realignments, all of that. I mean, we have a lot to talk about, so it'll be fun to get back in the saddle and talk about some college hoops.
It's gonna be very fun. I have no idea what we're gonna talk about because, again, as you mentioned, everything has happened. I don't know. We'll pick a championship winner though, because I like making Christy do that because
give me
way too early.
Advance. Way too early. But give me a week in advance. That's good instead of like a couple seconds and things. You know, I work better with.
I told you before the podcast. I was gonna. I don't. I have to get the receipt. Start recording us before we talk.
Receipts.
We gotta go. We have to watch this game.
Oh, we gotta go.
We gotta go. I told you we're gonna get close to this game, but
yeah, we're close to it. Well, you have some popcorn popping over there.
Yeah. I think. Well, I don't know. Well, I staying away from the carbs late night.
Oh, popcorn has carbs. I'm eating it anyway. Whatever. I'm having some. Okay. Well, you know what? I gotta go get my popcorn since Gabe isn't having any because it's too many.
I don't look as good as you, Christy. I can't have popcorn all the time.
It's Maybelline and some more stuff. Hey, listen. Anyway, we're gonna go ahead and watch this USA basketball game against Puerto Rico in the FIBA World Championships for women's basketball. But oh my gosh, we'll be right back next week talking about some college hoops and maybe tying in a couple more WNBA stories. Maybe.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we got to talk about Vicky Johnson. I totally forgot.
We'll get that in.
Yeah, we got a lot of stuff. Next week.
We'll get it in. Well, we don't have to go home, but we got to get up out of here. They're cutting the lights out on us in the arena. We're sitting here courtside trying to chill and chop it up, but they're telling us we have to go. So we're going to go ahead and go. For Gabe, Ibrahim, I'm Christy Winter-Scott, right here on the Her Hoop Stats Podcast Network. Join us next time.